Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavik. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as an entrepreneur and a craftsman to answer any questions. Now, for homeowners, this is a chance for you to ask a whole bunch of top-notch professional painters, including 2 of my favorite guys from Sherwin-Williams here today. Any paint questions you've ever wanted to ask. Process, coating science, what should I use, where should I use it, how should I do it? And for professionals, you know what we get here today. It's going to be coating science. Today we're talking about Emerald Trim Urethane. And we're going to be talking entrepreneurship, marketing, apprenticeship, processes, whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you guys have any questions, certainly type them down below there. Clecia, Bautarde, good to see you. Type in any of your questions down below. We'll get to them kind of through the show. We're going to have the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week, so thank you to the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America for sending me the info and spreading the word, also for Sherwin-Williams for underwriting this show today. Today's whole show is going to be devoted to Emerald Trim Urethane. It's an awesome product that I've been using for the last couple years here, and I did a whole bunch of other experiments. We have tons of samples here. And we're going to go over all that, and we have the people who know way more about this than I do. I use this stuff in the field. I know what it feels like. I know what to do with it when I get it, but these guys are the technical brains that can help fill in all the gaps. So we'll go through the, also, sharing is caring. So the nicest thing you can do for a show like this is to share it with other friends, with other homeowners, with other professional painters. So before we get to the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week, why don't you guys introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
I am Nick's Sherwin-Williams rep, West Milgren. Been your rep for some years, maybe 5. But I've been in my position for almost 10 years and just here to help answer questions today.
Yeah, and I'm Tom Schwartz. I'm the district sales manager here for the Twin Cities. I've actually moved here back in February, but been with the company going a little over 14 years now.
Awesome. Well, it's that you guys would be here for this is a big thing. When we're talking very specific details about Sherwin-Williams products, it's nice to have the brains here too. So anything you guys have as far as questions, type down below. Otherwise, we're going to hit the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week. We're going to talk very specifically about Emerald Trim Urethane, and then we'll answer some questions. So the PDCA Contractor Question of the Week was... I made the announcement that we were going to go over Emerald Trim Urethane, and I got a lot of questions about, there is a product called Pro Industrial Water-Based Urethane.
Correct. Water-based alkyd urethane.
Water-based alkyd urethane out there. It's in the Pro Industrial line, and I got a whole bunch of questions. Is this the same as Emerald Trim Urethane? The easy answer is no. Correct. What else do we need to know about that answer?
So the Emerald was based off the technology of the Pro Industrial products, so it is a modified alkyd. It's modified with a urethane resin in it.
Hybrid, just like the Emerald Trim Urethane.
Correct. Yeah. So it was used based off of that same resin. But your main difference between those products is if you were to take it out of the can and brush and roll it. So the Emerald Trim Urethane was specifically designed for an improved brush and roll application. So you get a lot less drag with it, brush strokes. You don't see it compared to the Pro Industrial products.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the main differences in that product. And then also another difference is it comes in a high hiding white. So you're going to get better coverage with that product as well.
Yep. And so currently the high hiding white actually does a better job of high hiding.
Correct.
Currently not tintable, but will be tintable, correct? Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, so we're looking at Q1 of 2019.
Okay.
We're looking to introduce a tintable version in the high hiding white, and then at that time it'll replace the extra white base. There just won't be a need for it because you'll have a product that covers better and that you can tint.
So obviously it's geared more towards when you're in somebody's house, ease of application, because we also have a product that for all intents and purposes, probably going to be used in an off-white or a white most of the time when we're doing trim. It's going to be easier to apply, and then we also have the added benefit of there is an option for a higher hiding product, and especially when you're going over existing trim, it's always nice to have that. So, and that high hiding base is not something that the Pro Industrial line has.
No, correct.
Yeah, so that's
one of the big
so
differences.
Geared, similar thinking, similar technology, but geared way more towards the contractor, the homeowner, ease of use.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your big difference is going to be your brush and roll properties.
Yeah, and there is, let me see if I can find my sample. I got them all out here. So let's say satin by hand. Yeah, so it must be this one here. So yeah, I mean, you can tell that I've used a ton of this stuff, especially the satin, because it's kind of got this really nice, unique shine to it. And this is just 2 coats over pre-primed trim. This is just brushed, and with one of my favorite trim brushes. So you can tell that this stuff, what I noticed really interesting about it when I did the entire Cottage Cabin project was that it seemed to stay open long enough to level out, but then it also dried fairly quickly too. Whereas, you know, a lot of old traditional enamels, they'll just stay open for a long time.
Yeah, so this product, I think from a contractor's point of view, it might take a little bit of adjusting to get used to if you're used to brushing and rolling, you know, traditional oil, alkyd-based products.
Yep.
Where your open time is not going to be what it is, you know, and the reason for that is your recoat time on it, which I'm sure we'll touch base on a little bit. But a little bit of a learning curve if you do happen to brush and roll compared to a traditional oil. You know, we recommend hitting it up, down, letting it go.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Yeah, you know, you might see some brush streaks in it when you're looking at it, but just, you know, don't
just
worry.
Like this,
walk away, and it looks really, really professional.
And I will absolutely echo that from the field, that overworking anything is bad, but this in particular, it's just do it and then not do it.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone then, yeah. So, okay, so thank you to the PDCA for the contractor question of the week. I've used the Pro Industrial water-based alkyd urethane. It's an awesome product. I've only sprayed it only because, again, it's not really made for that. It's a beautiful finish, but for anybody who's used a whole bunch of enamels, a whole bunch of industrial finishes, you'll be able to tell. The thinking is the same in that they're hybrids, but really they have 2 different uses and 2 different applications. So very interesting, good products though. So, okay, so let's just talk about Emerald Trim Urethane. I use a ton of satin. I've used some semi-gloss. This is the first chance I've had the opportunity to use gloss. Not something that I've seen in a store before, but you guys tracked some down for me, and I've been experimenting in the shop all week, and it's actually a super cool finish on that. So this is pre-primed trim that you just get at a home center and that carpenters would use. On this particular piece, because really, if somebody's going to do a high gloss finish, they're probably going to go through a ton of prep. I did a Extreme Bond primer, a sprayed coat of that, sanded it down. You can see the pre-primed here, the Extreme Bond primer here, and then I sanded it down like I normally would, and then 2 coats of gloss, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful finish on that stuff. Nice and hard too. I finished this up last night, and already it's hardened up really well. So it's a beautiful finish on that one. So yeah, the gloss is fun, but what do you guys, in those 3 shines, what do you think contractors are using most in your experience?
I see more semi-gloss than anything.
Semi-gloss? Yeah. Yep.
Like you said, I mean, each one of these is a tool. It has its purpose for the customer, but I sell mostly semi-gloss. But someone looking for a little bit, you know, more of a sheen, more of a, like, I think you would maybe call that a matte. But
a matte or like a dull rub or something like that. Yep.
But they each have their place.
And I'm a big fan of the satin only because it mimics a lot of those traditional oil enamels where it's got that beautiful just sort of matte finish to it, and it's somewhere between, you know, it's probably, you know, satin semi-gloss. They're not scientific terms, but each product is going to differ a little. But I love that because it's a shine that's not really available in a lot of other enamels for us. So I've been using a ton of satin. Yeah. So let's talk about one of the biggest difference. Hybrid enamels are being used widely. I use them a ton. The biggest difference I think that contractors are going to see about this is drying time and recoat time.
Yep.
Compared to traditional, absolutely. Your drying time to touch will be about 2 hours. Your recoat time is 4 hours. So obviously your temperature and humidity will play a big factor, but if you look at that compared to a traditional oil or alkyd product, 4 hours compared to 16, 24.
Huge.
Huge time saver in certain situations.
And I know that a lot of times, every contractor kind of has their own criteria for what they design their business to meet certain goals, to meet certain clients' goals, things like that. For me, I've always been under the sort of edict of let's find out what we can do the best, and then I'll figure out a way to actually, pay my mortgage with that.
Sure.
A lot of the questions from contractors are all about drying time about products. And for me, I don't care how long a product takes to dry. I want it to do a good job, and I will figure out what to do in between.
Right.
Because there's always other jobs, there's always other projects. But when it comes down to hybrid technology for a 4-hour recoat, that's about as good as the guys can do. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to touch with the Cottage Cabin how that helped you.
Yep. So there was in specific what caught my eye about this, because I love, for people who have been watching this long enough, you understand that I'm a traditionalist. I love all the old oil enamels. I love all the shellacs and things like that. But at some point, you do give up. There's tons of smell. There's tons of open time, and in lived-in houses, it can really put a family out. Like, I have 4 kids, and if we had to oil enamel all the woodwork in my house, I mean, that's basically a week or two where my family would have to leave, and that's not possible. So with this, I'm a huge fan of hybrids now, because you're basically getting like this tough, durable finish, this resists to blocking. It mimics those old oils, but you're not going through the crazy smell, and the drying time is just fractions of what it used to be.
Yeah, I think one of the huge benefits too, you mentioned hardness.
Yes.
If you know about pencil hardness,
yes.
in the degrees, you got 9B to 9H, 9H being the hardest, roughly equates to a diamond. This product actually falls in the 5H category, which is harder than a majority of our 2-component epoxies, harder than a majority of our 2-component, urethane products, solvent-based or water-based. So it's extremely hard.
I haven't heard the comparison before. That's actually really helpful.
Yeah, so, we can get the specifics of what products or what hardness is, but this is a 5H. So how that relates to a homeowner or a contractor, a lot more durable.
Yeah.
So you can, clean your cabinets more often, or your trim more often, so you're not worried about, burnishing through the coating, because it is extremely hard.
Yeah, and questions, anybody? We're going to go through and answer a few of these real quick. Anybody who has a question, just type it in there. Also share the show if you like it, and we will get to those in just a second. I'll introduce the Cottage Cabin project. We'll talk a little bit about it and why this was like a really good tool for it. So about a year ago, I did a project that I called #Cottage Cabin, and it's a wilderness cabin in northern Minnesota, built new from the ground up. It's for an artist client of mine. He built it for his wife, and they wanted to mimic a 19-teens lake home in northern Minnesota. So in order to get that, they built it by themselves. It was just a hole in the ground. The client actually cut down trees, milled the millwork for the inside of the house. He cut all the oak shakes for the outside of the house. He installed all that stuff, little copper roofs and things like that, and it's an amazing house. The only problem is you have a super demanding client in the middle of nowhere who expects not only fine finishes, but like, hey Nick, the best you've ever done, we need like a little better than that.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of nowhere and you have no resources. So I was trying to sort of like game plan how I was going to do this and develop these finishes for this guy. And Wes and I were talking, and I thought, well, this might be a good, let's showcase what Sherwin-Williams can do. Let's go into the middle of the wilderness. Let's produce some of the finest finishes on interior new construction, which again is a sort of anomaly. Most time, you super high end finishing for new construction usually ends up being on the coast for big new houses. This is a super concentrated project that has a ton of quality and a small amount of space. But let's use Sherwin-Williams products and let's see what's the finest of everything. Let's do some log oil outside. Let's do some, polished interior walls with a beautiful sort of low luster finish. And this product was sort of brand new. I mean, it was kind of circulating around, but I didn't have a lot of experience with it at the time. And what caught my attention about it was it did produce a super high-end finish, but the recoat was 4 hours, which is insane. So when you're way up in the woods in northern Minnesota, we prepped all the woodwork for this house, and one of the biggest advantages we had was we enameled every bit of door, window, true double hung windows, baseboard, casing, cabinetry twice in a day.
Yeah.
Which is huge. I mean, that saved, I had half of my company up there living in this cabin at the time, and we basically got home a day and a half early to our families because of that. And It's nice to just turn around and do that. So it was that. If for nothing else, if it produced an okay finish, we still would have used it, but it's such an advantage that it produced this ultra high-end finish, and we did it twice in a day, which I've never enameled a house twice in a day before.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
So it almost felt like this weird luxury, you know. But no, that was a fun showcase house. I have a couple pictures here for people, but I did a post earlier today, and then I'll go. We'll answer some questions. But I did a post earlier today, putting a bunch of pictures up about the Cottage Cabin project. So I'll just show you a few of them here. But this is it's a beautiful, beautiful wilderness cabin in northern Minnesota. It's all double hung windows, true divided light, so lots of masking, lots of taking apart, lots of finishing in this one. So yeah, it's just
the walls all were cashmere in that.
Yep. So we did a PVA primer, a polyvinyl acetate, and we sanded them all down to get a really smooth finish. And then we very meticulously applied a whole bunch of coats of low luster cashmere. So the walls just, I mean, when you can have new drywall from the start and make it non-porous and ultra smooth, anything you put over it is beautiful. It's got this open time. It levels off. It's not like normal new construction finishes. You put something on the drywall and it just flash dries.
Yeah.
Yep. So we had raised the grain with the polyvinyl acetate. We had sanded it all down, and then we basically had like the equivalent of a sealed concrete surface on the wall. So it was just a beautiful, beautiful finish, and the clients were ultra happy with it too. So go over a few samples here to show you guys some different shine levels, and then I'll kind of tell you how my favorite application method. So for brushing, this one happens to be a no primer underneath, and this is a sprayed application, just 2 coats like that. You can see a beautiful, beautiful finish, especially when it plays off those facets there. I like a Purdy Nylox sprig. I'm a fan of the 2.5-inch straight cut. It's got a super fine nylon bristle. It holds a ton of this paint, and the bristles are so fine that it actually lays out really well. So there is no prime by hand. So yeah, this is basically satin, 2 coats by hand over pre-primed factory trim. So if this is normally what we're given in new construction sites, you can see how nice that leveled off. And satin especially. I've used a ton of satin, and that stuff seems to level off just amazingly well. So this is normally what we're given in new construction, just the pre-primed trim. I'm a big fan of priming over it, but you know, nowadays when budget is everything, it seems like it's not like people ask you to adjust your budget anymore. It seems like you just don't get called back for new construction because everybody's got somebody to do it for them cheaper. But to save a little time too, there's a lot of hand finishing you can do, and even without a primer underneath it too. Excellent coverage. So that's a good one too. So we have, here's a satin by hand ×2 with a hand brushed oil primer too. So a little bit of brush stroke, but mainly from the oil primer. That's something that I found in the past. So let's see, Extreme Bond primer and satin sprayed. So this is really a beautiful finish. So you get some Extreme Bond primer under there. Extreme Bond goes on nice and thick. You sand it, you almost polish it. It goes so fine when you sand it. And then 2 coats of satin sprayed. So that was a good one. Let's do a semi-gloss. See this one here? This one is a prime. We got an Extreme Bond, and then we got 2 coats of the semi-gloss, and then finally the gloss, which is really pretty to look at. It's a beautiful finish on that. So, and what's interesting is that I actually spent some time sanding the existing factory finish on this stuff, because if you've ever looked at some factory primer we'll call it, if you get it wet it'll just come off of that stuff, but when you look at that stuff and examine it with like a light raking across it, they actually orange peel that stuff pretty badly. So I spent a little bit of time leveling that stuff off and do that. So okay, let's go back up and see if we got any questions here. All right, thank you everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. Ecclesia, thanks for watching. Elias, Russ Perry, we talked this morning. Have a good day today. Paul Schmidt, Mike Wojon, another local contractor. John Greavy, I think we know John Greavy.
Get to work, John.
Hope everybody's on their lunch break, right? Don Taylor, hey brother Nick, go Sherwin. Dave Rushing, Hector Valencia. Alex St. Germain, one of my apprentices, again. Better hope this is a lunch break. Sharon, thanks for watching. Jason Anke, get rid of that. Cody, thanks for watching. Matt Jansen. Don Taylor, I use that and their pre-cat for trim too. I know I'm not a lacquer guy, but there's a ton of guys who use, when people use lacquer, they use Sherwin pre-cat, it seems, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Derek Anslem, thank you for watching. Derek and I talk frequently. Keith, thanks for watching. Anthony Ford. Jason Anke, hello to you too. Derek. Dave Rushing, why are the lower sheens very gritty? Looks nice, but feels not so smooth. I guess I wish I could be more helpful. Not something that I've experienced here.
Your satin zone is.
Yeah, so I've heard this once or twice from contractors, but this, I just use, and this is interesting. I use I think I used a 210 tip for this, Graco fine finish, low pressure, which is sort of my go-to when I'm doing mill packs and things like that. It's got at about 9 to 11 inches away from the surface. It's got a beautiful sort of like 3-inch pattern, 4-inch pattern, something like that. And it seems that for the pump I'm using just like a $250 Graco X5. We got a bunch of those in the shop, and I use them for utility pumps. So when I'm doing samples like this, I just fire up one of the little guys so we can save the big ones for out in the field. And Graco fine finish, low pressure. And with that, I wish I could be more helpful on the pressure, but that one doesn't have a gauge on it. I turn it up, the tails just disappear. I do my samples on red rosin paper, and it sprays out just beautiful. So yeah, even on that big job site, when there's a whole bunch of overspray going around, it's not something I've experienced. So maybe I wish I could be more helpful with you. But I'd be curious to see, Dave, if you're using FFLP's tips or standard tips, or what the variables, because the problem is with spraying, there's so many variables. There's the coating, there's what you're doing to the coating, if you're stepping on it with water or extender, things like that. There's your environment, there's your tip, there's your pressure, there's what kind of pump are you using, how old is it, how are the packings, how are the filters, and then the biggest variable is us, the experience. How good is your hand, how good is your eye? There's so many variables in there, so I get a lot of questions about sprayer things, and it's very hard to diagnose sometimes. There's some that are super easy. If you're getting tails, turn the pressure up,
sure,
and then do the tip. But it's like, when somebody has a gritty finish, it's like, number one would probably be shop contamination, job site contamination, tack ragging beforehand. We have a process called SVT, sand vac tack. So my guys, we sand it all down, we shop vac it off with a brush, and then we take microfiber. I actually have a microfiber here. Microfiber rag. We soak it down with water, wring all the water out so it's barely damp to the touch, and then wipe everything down, and of course wash the rags and keep turning them. But with that, you basically have a dust-free finish. So if you're getting grit from something, I wonder if maybe the tip isn't too big and it's maybe just puffing around a bunch of unused coating. So I don't know if you guys have any other...
Like you said, there's a lot of variables that you gotta kind of consider.
Yeah, some variables. I think the biggest one I've seen too, as far as grit, I've played around with it quite a bit, is that primer you're going over too, and especially the amount of sanding that you do. It can be clear as day. You got a board that you sanded, depending on if you're using like walnut wood or stream bond or easy sand, whatever it may be. The amount of sanding that you do can have huge effects on your overall finish of your product. So you'd be like, oh, my top coat feels gritty. Well, it might, because if you actually were to put that prime coat under a microscope, you're going to see those peaks and valleys. And that's and that you're only putting it on at about 1.5, 2 mils dry. Which is a thin coating overall. So you might still be kind of taking on some of the irregularities.
It's just kind of translating through.
Exactly. So I've seen that as a cause of just some of the grittiness.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. Oh, I can absolutely see that. So, Clint, thanks for watching. Elias, not really say Sheen. Sheen is very off. Well, that depends on what you think of that. I use one of my favorite interior paints is a flat enamel. And it actually looks more like an eggshell than an actual eggshell. So, not scientific terms, but I do use different enamels. You have the Pro Classic Oil, you have Pro Classic Hybrid, you have Pro Classic Water-Based, you have Emerald Trim Urethane, and each one of those looks different. So even when you go acrylic Pro Classic versus oil Pro Classic, the two semi-glosses are going to look and feel different.
Yeah,
so to
absolutely.
me, all that stuff is, you know, I often during the week will get something, what's the best trim enamel? And then I will say, what do your clients want?
Right.
You know? And it depends what they want, because there's a lot of my clients in these traditional homes, they basically want, if they still made flat oil enamel, they would take flat oil enamel. They don't want it to be light reflective at all. And nowadays, some people want gloss. So what's the best enamel? For the different shine, sometimes you have to pick different enamels.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Pro Classic water base is probably not the best fit for everything you would ever do. You should have all these in your tool bag like tools. So we have Emerald Trim Urethane, we got the Pro Classic, we got a hybridized version of that, and they're all sort of things you can use. And if you have these samples like this, you can basically just ask your clients, because the clients, I mean, you have to be the technician to actually put the finish on, but your clients will always make the right decision about what they want.
Sure.
You just have to be the one then to supply their vision, you know. So so that's how I think about that stuff. Oh, my wife's watching. Hope I'm doing a good job. Thanks for getting the house ready for us. Travis Miller, wet sanded. Wet sanding is a good one too. It just takes a little more cleaning afterwards, because you kind of make a slurry, and sometimes you can get a haze,
Yeah, absolutely.
a haze on it. So Freddie Hernandez, thanks for watching. Albert Thorne, Wendy Mathowitz, a local person here. Sherilyn Stewart, thank you for watching. Philip Klein, a contractor down from Iowa. Anthony Ford, geared towards residential repaint contractors. That's where there's a huge benefit, but you know, like my hashtag Cottage Cabin project, that was new construction, and we felt a major, I mean, to take a house where you would have spent, I had a couple team members with me, it would have taken us 5.5 hours to prep and enamel the trim in this house. Every other enamel, even a lot of water based, we would have to be like, we have to sand it, so we can't do anything with it. We normally would have had to just gone fishing.
Yeah.
And then spend another night and then done it the next day. But this day we turned around, we did a little bit of sanding on it, it sanded after 4 hours, and we rock and rolled. So new construction, do not
I wouldn't
discount it.
I wouldn't shy away from a specific market, you know, geared towards one. If you know, if you want a product that dries extremely hard that you can recoat in 4 hours, you know, that has a variety of different sheens, you know, Emerald's the way to go. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a res repaint contractor, commercial, new res, hospitality. It's, you know, it's a product to fit, you know, the environment, the need, the situation.
When if you think about, you know, the two biggest things that came to mind were almost consolidated into this Cottage Cabin project, was that the faster this levels, the quicker it sets up. Think about trade damage. You got a guy walking in there with a you know, the quick trick sill and every flat spot in the house. The quicker this stuff sets up, the quicker it's going to resist all the other trades that are coming in there, and you know, using a hole saw in the ceiling. And
never had to do touch-ups either.
no, and, and especially if you think about some remodels. Now, some remodels on houses are the whole house, and they might as well be new construction with people living there.
Yeah.
Some remodels are just like a kitchen bump out, and wouldn't it be nice, you know, for me, a lot of the times I drive an hour one way up into the cities for my projects. Drive up there, and it normally is like a 2-hour job to put a coat of enamel on. Well, have lunch and then get your stuff ready, clean out your totes, and do it again. I mean, that's a huge benefit there. So, all right, Stephanie, thanks for watching. Paul, Anthony Ford, Zane Fry, Blake Ribaldo, thanks for watching. Oh, Nick Sebald says hi. Nick used to live in Jordan, now he's in Cologne? Cologne, yep. Good fisherman. He catches big catfish. So, Ed Peach, thanks for watching. Christine Turner from the PDCA, Annie Kalina, a local here, Adam Davis, Christian Melatello, my good friend Christian from out east. Russ Perry, gloss finishes for doors and trim was always a popular choice in the UK when I lived there. This looks like an awesome product. And I will tell you that usually I'm skeptical of, you know, the satin products I love in everything seem to have the right shine. But a lot of products offer a gloss and then you try it and it's just kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't feel good. This is a super high quality gloss. I really enjoyed using it. I enjoyed how fast it tacked up. So another test I like to do with gloss, and as you get shinier, the open time seems to be there a little longer. So what I do is I do horizontal samples, which was this one, you know, when we have our choice, if we were going to do a gloss finish, we lay it out flat. I also did some vertical samples. I did some doors in my shop standing up, and they look great. And I sprayed the enamel on, and it just clung there. And I was just doing other work in the shop, and it just kind of all came together, and it looked beautiful. So it wasn't one of those things. Sometimes glosses can be a nightmare where you spray them on, they'll stay wet for 6 hours, and come hour 5 and 45, all of a sudden you see the dreaded, and you can't brush them out at that point because they're half set up, and you'll make it all weird. So but I was very happy with this. There's good cling to it, and it held well. So I agree. There's nothing better than a good gloss finish. So Connor O'Keefe, another local Minnesota contractor. David Evans, Jason Paris, friend of the show, Jason Paris. Daniel Lassard, another contractor. Thanks for watching. Tina, another one of my apprentices. Jason, just jumping on, one of my guys had trouble getting tape to stick to emerald urethane. Any advice? Absolutely. I get this question all the time.
You too?
What's that?
Did you too?
Oh, but interestingly enough, this is not solely with emerald trim urethane. If you've ever used a water-based, just an acrylic enamel, spray that on, and in 4 hours try to put some tape on it. And a lot of the times, it's still going to be that way. Now, what I do is use frog tape. Obviously, there's things you can do in the work site. So I always use negative air machines and air scrubbers to sort of change out air, move air from one end of the project to the other. I prefer to have, at least in the summer months, you're sucking fresh air in one side of the job, pulling it through the job, and then exiting it out forcefully the other way, and usually filtering it in between there. I have tons of box fans on my job. Because of the hybrid, what I've noticed with hybrids is that sometimes it's almost like they're humid a little longer. The benefit is, I think the open time is there, so they level out, but I think we run into a little bit of tape sticking issues. But I use tons of air movement. I use frog tape. I've had great luck with frog tape, just the 1-inch stuff. Tons of hand burnishing. That's what I found. Usually 3% of my tape won't stick. It might have been in a back corner of a closet.
Using the green or yellow?
Green. Yep. So I've tried yellow too. Yeah. I've not really found a difference, and we stock a ton of green. So now there is 3M, and I love your guys' input on this too. The 3M reps gave me some orange tape. It's a high tack, but it's got a higher quality crepe paper on it. So the only downside with something like that, it's a little higher tack. Think of it as like your tan tape, but a super high quality actual tape there that will kind of withstand a little better. So I've done it before. I've had good results. The only problem is whatever you tape it to, you have to think about removal time, because it is a much quicker removal tape than blue or frog tape or something like that. So what have you guys found in the field? Some solutions, anybody doing anything novel?
Yep. Jason, talk to Brad, your rep. We got some Intertape has it's an orange tape as well.
Yep.
PG 505 that's working for guys. It's weird, you talk to one guy and this tape's working, and then you talk to another guy and it's not working, kind of like frog tape. I'll talk to somebody else and they'll say no. But the PG 505, it's an orange tape. PG 5, another orange tape, has seemed to work. But again, you'll talk to one guy and it may have worked in his situation, but the 505 has seemed to really pick up and start working. I don't know if
no, they're similar. Like the CP33 came out awesome. People were loving it. Some people had issues with it.
Yeah.
It seemed to be a job by job basis, painter by painter basis. Certain situations it would work, certain situations it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a case by case basis. Same product used, same tape used, one not sticking, one sticking. So, environmental conditions were different locations.
I think the environment would be huge, and I would love to talk to some contractors in Arizona and Colorado, because I know that there's a contractor I correspond regularly with in Colorado who does a lot of hybrid fine finishing inside. It almost dries too quick for him. And you spray it on and it just dries instantly. It's hot, it's dry, it's just perfect. I doubt that they would probably echo a lot of our...
Yeah, well, when I was in Virginia, it's still a really, really humid state. We never came across this issue.
Yep.
Ever. Yep. Tape sticking to emerald was not a concern.
Yeah.
And then it moved here, and it was a concern for the contractors.
So it's interesting too, because we think we kind of have it bad. It's humid and it rains a lot here, and yes, we run into like these minuscule things, like 5 to 10% of the tape doesn't stick as well as it should when using hybrid finishes. on trim. But I talked to a contractor from Louisiana last week. They can't get tape to stick to anything.
Yeah.
Not vinyl siding, not windows, not, I mean, it is, so there's a continuum. It has to be more, environmental related too.
Yeah.
Because I bet Arizona would not deal with
Yeah,
that.
no, like you said, I mean, best practice, keep air moving in there.
Air
keep
is
off
huge.
fans in there. Air is huge to get that product to kind of turn a little bit faster. Anytime you can introduce air to an environment, it's just going to help the drying time, help the cure time.
And I don't know, you guys didn't get a chance to see my shop today, but we've started to introduce dehumidifiers too.
Yeah.
And that's been huge. So we have a dehumidifier with like a gallon tank in it. It'll take a gallon out of the air in like 2-3 hours.
Oh yeah.
And that's without heavy use in the shop.
Sure.
We're not running, 20 gallons of enamel through there. This is just like when the shop's sitting there.
Right.
Every 3 hours it'll take a gallon out. So it's substantial, and we've noticed a big. So when I did these samples, I did the dehumidifier, and that dehumidifier was filling up like crazy, and I only used a half quart of each one of these paints in there. So that does help a lot to get that stuff, especially when I was sanding in between coats. And hybrids are a little slower to cure, but the trick is to get them dry enough to where you can sand them to level it out a little bit and promote adhesion, and then go again. And I had no problem in the shop, and this is about as humid as we could ask for in Minnesota. It's like 69 degrees, it rains every day, and it's just horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jason, hope that helps. Todd Packish, past client of mine. Tina, thanks for watching. Bruno, thanks for watching too. Adam Davis, what's the difference between Emerald and Pro Classic? Pro Classic has 3 kinds, if I understand right. There's an oil, there's an acrylic, and there's a hybrid. So probably the question is directed to what's the difference between hybrid Pro Classic and this hybrid?
Yep. So the Pro Classic is just a water-based alkyd, right? So you gotta get the soap and water cleanup, the low odor, but your traditional feel of an oil. Where the urethane has it's a modified alkyd resin with a urethane. So it's a urethane modified alkyd. So you still have water-based products, the alkyd molecules,
But the urethane resin is
the urethane resin is the main difference, which provides your hardness, and then your urethanes also provide better, UV color retention if it wasn't in an area where you had a lot of sunlight coming into the room, or if you're using it outside on a
I was going to say
column or
that's
something.
one thing that we haven't even touched on at all is it's an interior and exterior product. So
which
obviously
piques
you're
my
not
interest a
going
lot.
to use that Pro Classic outside. So
No, and I was very curious. I thought, well, yeah, we'll anytime you see inside and outside, it's either the sign of an ultra high end paint or Fleet Farm paint.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious now is, I'm looking for a job where we can do some entry doors and things like that, because the finish is beautiful. I would love to spray some entry doors with some of this stuff, and
entry doors,
and do that.
rails,
So, it'd be beautiful. Yeah, but stable stuff. I mean, you probably wouldn't paint the side of a farm building wood with that stuff. Probably wouldn't have the give. So.
Stick to your shirt, bro.
Exactly. All right, Adam, I hope that helps. If you need it to be clarified a little bit, let me know. Oh, no. There we go. Sorry, just almost ended the broadcast here. So let's see here. Philip, I really like this product. We teach our guys to brush it like oil, 2 to 3 strokes and leave it. Yep, that comes from experienced craftsmen there. So
Thanks, Philip.
yeah, you know what you're talking about. Richard Heilman, another Minnesota contractor there. Thanks for watching. Jason Anke, same problem here. Tony Verhoeven, Kristen Lumbrecht, Paul Rafferty. How's it going, Paul? Christian Garabedian, first live show. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Share it if you like it. Philip Klein, Jason Paris. We use frog tape and haven't had any adhesion issues to date. And I will echo that. Yeah, biggest thing, get air moving to dry it out, and then lots of hand burnishing. So if you think you're going to lay it down and we strike it with a putty knife or a 5-in-1 tool, that's usually not going to do it. It usually takes, with anything, like all our new millwork, you got to get in there with my hands, and I always make sure I give it a burnish like that, and that tends to do really, really well. Josh Wright, thanks for watching. Todd Hill, Daniel Lassard. Oh, here we go. Recommendations for spraying. Does it need to be thinned? Using a Graco 9.5. HVLP was told by my rep that I never need to thin anything through that machine, but I can't get it to spray nice. So, quick recommendations for Danielle.
The HVLP.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're not really a fan of thinning anything. I don't know why you would have to thin it through that. It might be something I would get your Graco rep involved in.
So what I would most people when they have a problem like this, they're usually using a number 3 needle through. Yeah, whatever the machine came with. They usually come with like 3s or the equivalent to 3s. I would try a bigger, a 4 or a 5, and see if that helps out. Because if you're maxing out the pressure on the machine, you know, if you've gone max pressure, you may have to play with the needle.
Yeah, I would say a 4 would probably be your best bet.
Yeah, probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And to know if you're a crazy person or not, try airless too. If you can't get it to spray with airless either, then there's some other sort of variable. You know, we talked about the 42 variables of spraying. If you can get it to lay down good with a airless, but not an HVLP, then you have to just take a step back and say, well, what's the fundamental difference then between airless and HVLP? Is it the amount of power? Is it the orifice size? What are we dealing with here? And then just limit your variables and go from there. So, okay, Andy Chadwick, thanks for watching. Derek Ansel, my second the explanation, the difference between performance between this and Pro Classic. Yep, covered that one. Megan Reynolds. Nick Painter, another contractor. I think he's down in Austin, Texas. Rob Morris. Richard Heilman. I had issues with tape adherence when I used it when it came time to paint the walls. Yellow and green frog tape as well as IPG Intertape. Yep, I think most of us Minnesota contractors seem to be coming to the same conclusion here. It just takes a little more thought, you know. Jason's talking to Richard about orange tape. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Dave Rushing had a question. We covered that already. Does it yellow? I've not seen it yellow at all. So I think the farthest back when Pro Classic Hybrid came out 8 years ago?
Probably around that time frame.
It's a long time ago. I actually just checked on the job I did with that hybrid paint. No yellowing at all. It looks like a water-based enamel. And I've only used this maybe 3 years, give or take, 2 years, 3 years. And I've not seen, I actually went back and touched up a little bit of stuff in one project. No difference in any of it.
Yeah, I mean, it has the urethane in it, and if you know anything about urethanes, and you know, it's not going to yellow significantly compared to an alkyd or even acrylic. Because urethanes outside are going to give your best UV performance, UV stability, so it won't yellow.
Yeah, and especially when, you know, lacquer is, it's interesting to hear a lot of kickback on do things yellow, because a lot of times when people use lacquers, I mean, lacquers are almost sometimes the most notorious, especially when you shut a cabinet door, you open that thing up, you know, absolutely. 6 months later. So, no, I honestly, of all the things I worry about painting, yellowing with this is not one of them, so. All right, John Greavy, viewing party, great job. Oh, thanks for watching, John. We love it. That you would take some time to watch us means a lot. So, Jason Paris, my paint rep, immediately texted me the orange tape idea.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, I'm going to test it out, and I'll let you know. That's awesome. And we expect a full report, Jason. So, Stephanie Bustakaris, thanks for watching. Stephen Capetto, another local. Oh, Aubrey says hi.
Hi, Aubrey.
Avery, thank you. Paul Seguenza, another good contractor. Josh Erickson. How Jorge, thanks for watching. Dave Rushing. Jamie Hansen. Okay, I'm not sure what Dave's up to here. Nick Croson. Tim Albertson. Philip. Philip was addressing, I think, Dave's question about possible finish being gritty. One of my guys had that issue. It was due to overbrushing, and I'll absolutely agree with that one, because with hybrids and anybody who's worked with a lot of traditional oils, there is an open time, but the open time is not, it's always wet for the entire open time, and then it shuts off and snaps together. The longer you wait during that open time, the more pudding-like it gets, and if you try to brush that, it's a complete disaster. So that happens with hybrids and with oils and stuff, where yes, there is an open time, but your time to mess with it is very immediate, and then you give it that time to coalesce. Colby Davis, another awesome contractor. Casey Wilcox. Mike Vitro, South Florida paint contractor. Ryan O'Neill, another local guy. Is it a true alkyd? Will it yellow over time? No, it will not. Just covered that one. Derek Anselm. Blake Ribaldo is my local rep, trying to spread the word. Made me happy to see him watching. That's cool. We got Derek. I think you might be down in Louisiana, so you got you and your paint rep watching down there. Brian Cumming, thanks for watching. Dave Rushing. Is the gloss PCV ratio 20:80? I'm not sure about the specific one. I know the satin at 60% is like 15 to 25, give or take.
15 to 25 for satin at 60.
So that's the only one I really know offhand, because that's the one I use. I can pull up that data sheet for the gloss and I can let you know, Dave. Otherwise, Google that thing. It'll come up in 3 seconds here. And I actually like to see that on these data sheets too.
It is.
I love that stuff, having that extra information, because it does help. Like when you go to Canada, there's a lot of the Canada contractors who won't use a satin or a semi-gloss. They'll say like degrees of shine or units of shine. Yeah. So especially on satin, because I keep this one handy in my command books because I use it. But satin is right there. That'll tell you exactly what it is. So I think I was pretty close on that one. Anthony Cade, Dean Peckdahl, thanks for watching. Roger Christensen. Michael Van Morik, my good friend from the Netherlands, he actually sent me some imported Dutch brushes, and I was using them to apply sailboat varnish this week. So
okay.
It's a fun one. Rachel, thanks for watching. Tara, thank you for watching.
What's Jason saying now?
Brad texted me 2.3 seconds after my first post. He's on it. That's awesome. JP Carlton, Chris Champ, Josh, thanks for watching. Ryan Cummings. Let's see what we got here. Tyler Cox. Isn't the waterborne industrial urethane the same thing as emerald? We did cover that at the top of the show, so if you want to take a look at that. Simple answer, no, and we explain why. Yep, there we go. Melissa Lorello. Melissa runs an awesome, if you guys are on Facebook, she has an awesome Facebook group for cabinet painters, and she does super in-depth sort of how-to videos. She tests products. She just got some of this stuff too, so I'll be curious to see what you think of that, Melissa. It's you won't be disappointed. So oh, Melissa says she sprayed it beautifully with a 4 needle in hers, so I know she uses some HVLP, so thank you.
I do know what I'm talking about.
Thanks, Melissa, I appreciate that. Let's see what we got here. Christian Garabedian, I use a damp rag to burnish. Sturdy pressure and dampens helps form a seal with the frog tape. I use yellow and green, some adhesion issues, but we're humid in New York City. Yeah, I would agree, everywhere is like that. Marshall Lesueur, Mike Vietro, Pro Classic Hybrid doesn't yellow, I would agree. Anthony Cade, another good paint contractor there. Thank you for watching. Okay, we've hit the end of the questions, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you for the PDCA, for being underwriters. Thank you for Sherwin, for not only lending me your guys for today, but their input, and also getting me some stuff so I can do a bunch of samples. This has been a really fun kind of, I've spent a lot of the week kind of tightening up my system for satin. It's been fun to mess more with semi-gloss and to be introduced to gloss too. So it's been a fun week of sort of experimentation. And thank you everybody for watching. In 2 weeks from now, I will be in Colorado for a paint industry event called Crank, put on by Nick May. Nick May's a painting contractor in Denver. He runs Walls by Design, and he's having a 3 or 4 day event for painting contractors. He actually asked me to MC it, so I will be there. I will be leaving on a Thursday night, spending all weekend there talking with other contractors. Then there will be the PDCA Craftsmanship Forum, the PDCA Commercial Forum, the PDCA National Expo, which will be in March this year, I believe early March in Georgia. And there's a couple other events in there. Gathering of Minnesota Painters will probably be getting together at the end of September here. So everybody who's in that Facebook group, or we have your emails, get ready for that. And thank you to Sherwin for actually hosting us for the first gathering of the Minnesota Painters. I think we had 30 or 40 guys there, and it was really awesome. So thank you to everybody for watching. Share this if you like it. Let it find other people who are sort of like-minded and want to raise the standards in our industry. Thank you for all your questions, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.